And it says we've begun recording, so I want to welcome everybody today. I will continue to admit people as they come in, but welcome. Today we're going to be talking about extending the Viva Connections Dashboard with custom and third-party applications. Ton of content to go through today. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions at any time, feel free, use the raise hand feature. That will give me the kind of visual clue in that, hey, somebody has a question, you need to answer them. So please do that. Also, if after today's presentation you want the recording or the resources, so I have everything that's in my deck today has been output as a PDF along with all the links. That'll all be attached to the recording from today's session, which will be on the blog here at aka.ms/HLS-blog. And you'll be able to see each upcoming week's one. And what I've done is created a recurring meeting. So the meeting that if you added it to your calendar, you should see it recurring. We'll have different topics each week and we'll announce them the week prior. And then you can tune in when you want. Don't tune in when you don't. But I want to welcome everyone. We do have a ton of content. What we're going to be covering today is going to look like this. So first of all, I do want to let everybody know right up front, I'm not a programmer, right? So, however, I do understand a lot of what we're doing around programming. What I'm going to be covering today is around the following. First of all, real quick, just an overview of Teams as a single pane of glass, because how this fits in philosophically. Then we're going to hit on extensibility, and I'm going to be showing a demonstration with the Connections Dashboard, and I'm going to show you adding a third-party app that will not show when you go into the Connections Dashboard piece. Even if you click to add one, I'm going to show you how to make some third-party ones that are out of the box available. I'll also show you how to do some things within that, including audience profile targeting. So I'll demonstrate that. Then we're going to get into the extending the dashboard, and this is where we'll get into some of the things that hit on the three types of cards that you can add to the dashboard, which is no code, low code, and full code. And I will get into those. I'll be hitting on things that you can leverage today that you may already have in your environment, how with some tweaks, how you can get that up there, and I'll provide the resources that'll walk you through all that. I even have a place where you can go and get a bunch of sample code and sample examples for doing some of this. We'll hit on custom cards, building those cards. What are the things that you can enable and what can't you, right? So we'll hit on that. Then we'll have a piece assembling the dashboard, and then I have some stuff around the developer site. It is a lot of content. I do want to answer your questions as best I can. If I can't, I have my notebook handy. And just like last week's, as I mentioned before, I don't know who was on yet, we did round up. Last week, we had a bunch of outstanding questions. Those have now been provided to me, and after this presentation, I'll be posting those as an update to the post that we did with the recording and resources. So those will be there as well. I'll take anything that's outstanding and we'll get answers for those and try to get those up for you as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get moving. So just real quickly, philosophically, when we talk about Viva, whether it's Viva Connections, Insights, Learning, or Topics, and the upcoming one from our acquisition of Ally.io, all of it's around this idea of making Teams the single pane of glass to get your work done. So it's meant to surface in Teams. We mean, and you'll see as we get into extending the dashboard, we really want to leverage those extensions and things you've already done, possibly in Teams, whether inclusion of third-party apps or creation of bots, adaptive cards, and things of that nature. So we just continue to build on that. This is an extension of those efforts. And with Connections, bringing that intranet SharePoint modern framework and the things that we're doing there to enable development. We want to bring all that front and center to be able to leverage that within the Teams connection area so that you can leverage that for the dashboard. So not trying to do things necessarily new, but packaging it in a way to serve it up to your internal employees in a more meaningful manner, both desktop and mobile. And again, this just kind of highlights that, talking about from a development standpoint and extending all of Viva. What you'll see as we move forward increasingly is around this idea of leveraging the investments that you're already making, whether it's in things that we're doing in SharePoint or that you're doing with the Power Platform, and extending that and being able to bring that to connections or to insights or to topics, and being able to take what you're already doing and just move that forward and extend that. We also have an extensive partner program. I'm not going to get too much into that today, but we have partners both from ISV, people creating solutions, as well as custom ones that they're developing, that are already developing all kinds of integrations into other components so that you don't have to necessarily do that yourself. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about that. We want to jump into Microsoft Viva Connections.
Let's jump into a demonstration of how all of this is.
And let me stop that for 1 sec. I do have a short video I'm going to play that kind of gives an overview to get you thinking about what we're going to be talking about, and then we're going to jump into the content itself. So I'm going to mute myself, and we will begin the video.
Coming together. I'll share some common Viva module integration use cases that leverage a simplified framework, as well as showcase how you can seamlessly derive additional value from your existing Teams or SharePoint apps and integrations. We'll start here in Viva Connections. Connections is a single destination for employee news, communications, conversations, resources, and more. The Connections Dashboard is where employees can go to find and act on company or HR-related tasks assigned to them, while also enabling employees to self-discover and start new tasks that might be important to them. Customers and partners can customize the dashboard to seamlessly surface the right employee tools and experiences personalized for employees. The cards on the dashboard will offer interactive capabilities, allowing users to dive deeply into specific tasks or a set of content, but still allow employees to easily return to the Viva Connections experience. Creating integrations with the dashboard gives customers the flexibility to ensure the right experiences are showing up in the flow of work, while also enhancing the usage and engagement of your solutions. The cards leverage familiar framework components such as Adaptive Cards you've already developed through Teams apps. This means you get default support for all your Teams' personal apps and bots with limited to no additional effort on your part. But with a little extra effort, you can create more immersive experiences to drive traffic to your solutions. You can dynamically update the title, icon, or descriptions on the card to provide employees with real-time information. You can also dynamically control the buttons. We provide a wide range of templates and are always adding more to help you get exactly the layout you need. Leveraging JSON, you can create a quick view that not only allows employees to get information from your product in real time, but also enables them to engage quickly with it. You can also navigate employees back to your tools for deeper engagement. The possibilities are endless with Viva Connections Dashboard, from making it easy for employees to request time off, to approving an expense report, to checking a pay stub. Integrating with Viva Connections enhances the discoverability and usage of your tools and resources that employees are used to for their everyday needs. I'd encourage you to check out the developer preview, available today, and similar to partners like Workday and ServiceNow, Qualtrics, and MoveWorks, you can start integrating your apps and services right into Viva Connections. Now, integration into Viva is not limited to Connections.
All right, so we're not going to cover the rest of that. They keep going on and on. What we're going to be going over is exactly what you saw there, but diving in a little deeper as to what we provide. So a couple of different things when we look at, creating a dashboard to give employees what they need is we have a number of different features that are available. So first of all, you saw this idea of bringing a dashboard, and they're showing it here in the mobile view, but certainly it is part of that home page that when we're in a PC or Mac desktop type view, it's just a component of the page. But what we're doing is Viva Connections understands what the dashboard is and brings this entity that's on that particular page called the dashboard. We bring it cleanly over so that you can have that in the mobile view as a tab view. When we look at that, it allows us to do that. It allows us to get also the feed. And remember, it's just one part of it. It also lets us do some curated custom experiences. For example, jump points, and this is all via these tabs up here. The resources are jump points to other areas of the intranet. They could be your HR web or, finances, whatever the case might be. But the thought is that with the dashboard, we're going to really target that and keep it to the applications they need to get their job done, not just a lot of generalized links that would better resolve here under resources. So very targeted. You'll see that one of the things, and I'm going to bring it up and show you, is that we are limited on the number of tiles that we can show via the web part. So that doesn't mean that's the number of tiles that you set up. With audience profile targeting, you may have a whole range of tiles, but we'll only display a maximum of 10. And you can control that, and I'll show you where you do that in a moment. But the idea is this is very much something that you need to think about, what you're going to deliver and who is to see what components of it. And that's going to take some thought. It's not just throw some links out there. Those would be better served here under the resources. And as you look at that, I have a link here that brings you to something called Create the Viva Connections Dashboard. So that you can bring that up. I'll show you some of this one of the links. I have it already pre-marked, and I have a page I'll bring up later to show you at the end. But we do have content here that helps you as far as looking at this, thinking it through, and doing things like audience profile targeting and some of the areas around that. So, the dashboard, that's around it. What we're going to look at today are the 3 types. We're going to start off with out of the box. It's just config, no code. You just set it up, and there it is, and there it works. And you've seen, if you've looked at the dashboard on the back end, you've probably seen some out of the box ones, and you've been thinking, well, this doesn't do what I thought it would do. This has a behavior that's not what I expected. And I'll get into that. We'll talk about that. But it also includes third party. I'm going to show you how you can pull in ready-made third party out of the box, right? With just a couple of clicks. The next is around low code. So using Power Platform for adaptive cards and bots, or the card designer in conjunction with that's a part of the dashboard to pull components. So you may have already done things for teams, for example, to build adaptive cards and provided for those, or built a bot that you put in or put on a SharePoint site. Those are absolutely able to be reused here, brought into our framework here in the dashboard for reuse, but you can also continue using that type of learning that you've had to develop them and push them out. So really the idea of the power user or citizen developer, not full code. We want to empower people to be able to do things much quicker and more nimble, and be able to push those out and make the availability of those for users to go out and have them available for them. And then finally, full code Visual Studio. And I will share at the end. I have a link that has some of the, well, it's at the very end is the link that I'll show you, but it has a link where it has all the templates. There's a whole range of templates and other pieces that you can grab. And we want to make those available to you so you can actually get started, get jump started with templates. There's documentation all around that, as well as some sample ones that will provide you as well. And then in addition to that, we'll look at some of the things around design guidance and building your first adaptive cards and some more information around that. So let's take a look, just get started as to the components that we have within the dashboard and things that you need to look at. So the first thing you'll notice is with the dashboard, they can be a range of sizes and interactions. One of the pieces that we want to target for users is this idea of an easy to use application that allows us action right here, right, where we can click on buttons within the application, bring the application a preview up with it, and then dive into it to do further work. So here you can see they're providing an example of that and allow you to go in and do things in place and then simply close it and be back where you started. That is a core piece that we're delivering. The other is for all of these various components, each one of these tiles or cards can be sized differently, and you'll see we can do different graphical treatments. And we have the ability to target them, like it says over here, based upon their role or function within the org. So using groups, either Azure AD groups or Microsoft 365 groups that you can set up individually, or you get in the context, for example, when you set up a team, you automatically get up a group, and I'll show you how that would work. You can then target content so only that group will see that particular tile. They'll have that unique experience available to them. We're going to do that in just a moment to see how that works. The beauty of this, again, is this idea of leveraging, your existing investments. So we have a couple of things that we're going to pull right through. For example, this nav bar or tabbed view that we have, that's coming right from that connections page. You have here the dashboard coming cleanly over because it understands it. We have the company feed. We have resources for other content that we can add in here. The company name and branding can be down in here, the company logo, front and center. And then again, being able to do some things with these cards to be able to resize them. And you'll note it says both Adaptive Cards plus SharePoint and Teams apps. So I'll show you where you can see some of those to actually start to pull them and play with them, manipulate them a little bit, and add them to your dashboard to make that available. So let's go ahead. I don't want to, before I jump into the demo, I'm going to be showing you two ways of adding cards. Any questions? If you raise a hand, let me know and I will address them before we jump into the demo. Anybody? Nope. Okay. So let's go ahead. I am going to come back here to my Teams instance and we'll see, where is my landing? What happened? Gotta love a live demo. All right. I am going to close that and reopen. Oh, wait just a second. Bring up Teams. Come to the landing. There we go. All right, so here we are. We are in Viva Connections. You can see here we have the landing with our little custom logo up here. You know, you can have whatever logo you so desire. We have here news and information and all kinds of stuff coming up. But we also have here the dashboard with a number of interactive components. And when we want to add to that dashboard, we have a couple of ways to do so that are very simple. The first is that when we come in here, and I'm actually going to go to now this, I'll show you from the home page. So right from here, you need to actually open up the home page view. And then from this particular view, I can come up to the little gear here, and you'll notice it says set up Viva Connections. So we're going to select that. Then we're going to select view the dashboard, and it's going to bring us to here and show us these components that we have added to the dashboard. Now, to add content to the dashboard, we click Edit, and you'll notice it's gone by default here into a mobile view for me. And it says I can go ahead and add a card. And here we're going to see just a few cards. You might not be seeing these two in yours, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But we have a couple of out-of-the-box ones that we do provide, an approvals one, an assigned task, something called the card designer that I'll show you, shifts, T-maps, and I'll explain those in a moment, and web link. The two, though, that what we're going to use, first of all, is I want to show you how to get something like this, a third-party app that's been published and made available through what's called the SharePoint store. So if you're familiar with SharePoint, SharePoint on the back end has available this app catalog, SharePoint apps, and we have this section called the SharePoint store. That's where it's all moving to. And the first thing you'll see is we have apps that complement Viva Connections. And if I want, I can click that. It's going to show me a couple of ones. Here's that one particular one I have. Then it's showing me some additional ones. I can actually go in and search on Viva. And come on, Viva. There we go. And so right from here, I get a number of different applications that I can go through and look at that I could add. And you can see here's that LifeWorks one that we added earlier. Here's an SMS gateway one. There's all kinds of one. Here's another SMS particular one. But let's say Limeade, we wanted to add that. We'd go to that particular piece, and it's going to show you, you know, all about Limeade, and you can read all about it. And we'll let them in. You can read the details on it if you wanted, reviews. But when I'm ready, I can add it to the app catalog. So for third party, if they've already published them here, I simply need to add it to the app catalog to make it available. If they have not, there are a number of third-party ones out there that are, you need to go to your vendor and they will provide it directly to you. And so you can add that then to be added for you to publish and make it available. So I'm going to click add to the app catalog. It's going to validate it. It's going to say where it's getting data from. I'm going to say add this to all sites, click add. And it's going to go in the background, and we're going to circle back to this in a moment to see how I can then add this particular app to that. Oh, this one requires additional permissions so it can access users' features. I don't want to go to the API. I'll say I'm going to do it later. All right, so we'll come back to that. And so now, you know, we have that one system of adding it. The other way, though, if we come on back to here, is to add one of our existing ones here. And so I'm going to select this particular one called a web link. Web links are the most basic and easy of all the cards that you could possibly add. You're simply going to come in, you say web link, click the edit card. You can select the size here, give it a link. In this case, I'm going to pick a particular website that I want to make available and target, because sales and marketing group is doing all of their work here within this particular SharePoint site, and I want to make that available to just them. So I'm going to go ahead, copy that link, bring it here, say sales and marketing. I'm going to retitle that. I'll call that sales and marketing. And then for the card description, just for simplicity's sake, I'll just repeat that. And you can see it's building the card right here. And I could say working site. So it's gone ahead, auto-selected a thumbnail based off of that site. I could upload a custom one if I wanted. I could do the same for the card to have that in here. But the last part I have is audience to target. So this particular site has a group associated with it. So if I actually start to look, say sales and marketing membership, I can go ahead and audience profile target. Now notice it says you have a 50 audience limit. That means for any one card or tile, I can target it to up to 50 groups, whether they're Azure AD groups or M365 groups. So you have a lot of flexibility with these, where you can add and have a lot of people view an individual card, but not have it show for everybody. Once I'm done, I simply say republish. It's going to go ahead and republish that here. And it's going to make this particular one available for that group. But I also want to come back one last time. I'm going to click edit. Let's click add a card. And it hasn't shown up quite yet. Shortly, that other one that we added to the App Store will show up here. And then we can add that as well. That's how we did LifeWorks. But I'm going to come on back here now that I've republished that. Let's come back here to this particular page. And I believe I am a member of that particular group. Let's refresh that one more time. Maybe I'm not a member of that group. Just seeing it. I am not. So there we go. So it's doing the profiling. So there we go. I'm not a member of that particular team, so I'm not seeing it, even though we know it's been published for all of our users. Oh, and here we go. For all of our users, that's available. So, we have this particular piece is just for that group. So I am not evidently in it. And well, that's a good thing. So we're seeing how it's trimming that out. But you can quickly go in for out-of-the-box web parts. Again, if they're supplied by the third party, if you have a question about one, you don't see it in the SharePoint store, talk to the vendor. Whether it's a ServiceNow or others, they can provide you that, and then you can add it to the catalog, make it available, and bring it then here onto that page and target it for those who need to use it. The other piece I did want to quickly highlight here are the fact that with some of these, you'll note if I come in here, add a card, you may have, if you've looked at this previously, tried the Teams apps. And so any existing generic app, if I come in here, they start to appear, and it's going through and looking. And if I click in, you'll notice I'm starting to see some different apps that were made available for Teams. These are personal apps that people can leverage, like Q&A, Math, Viva Learning, News. But understand that this is really meant to be done in the context of the desktop type of a view, or in the client on the mobile. And the reason is this: these particular apps, there's been no rewriting of them. We're simply bringing it in so that when the user goes to click it, it will actually take them, it'll open up that application in the Teams application, full screen. So it just opens the app, and then the user engages with it. I'm going to get into in a moment how you get those screens where you give them previews and all that in line. But these are meant to be no code. It's just a very simple, we're taking an app that's existing here, allowing them to open it, and then it'll give them some options within there. And that's it. This isn't the richer view that a lot of people have expected. And so you may be thinking, oh, geez, this doesn't work the way I thought it did. And the point is, no, it's just these particular apps right here. So if you wanted to put insights or forms, for example, it's just going to open up forms as an application, as opposed to this one where I use the link app to pull it in an actual employee form that'll open up in context. So keep that in mind as we go through. All right. As we're going, any questions before I move on to the next part? Everybody's very quiet. You can raise your hand. All right, so moving on. So we mentioned, I said support for personal teams, personal apps, and bots. That's kind of what you saw there, but you can publish additional ones, make those available. And then that's just going to open up that application right there. So if you select, for example, here they're showing a bot, it's going to open up the bot, it's going to take over, and it's going to be a full experience straight into that bot and allow the user to interact with it and ask questions. But that's a very simple thing. If you've already developed those for teams, again, you can further leverage them within the context of the Connections Dashboard if desired, if you think that's worthwhile. Other pieces, though, that you may want to do, like here's one where they developed a Power Platform app, is around this idea of, a Power app and then having some stages in it. So here we have the health check one. Instead of just opening up the whole piece, this is one where they've developed, and we'll see where we can do some of this, but they actually prompts you first to accept a privacy notice, which gets logged and registered wherever you're doing it for this particular app, and then brings you into further information and the actual application around that. And so we can provide that both from that application aspect right in here, and then have people answering it, but also the web view as well. So again, if people do go to the website directly, they don't lose anything. They're going to get the full piece built right in. And I had a question from a customer this morning. You're going to get all of that right there. And that's important when we start talking about custom cards, which is the next portion, because you're going to want to build these rich individual experiences, not just out of the box ones. I do have a link for documentation around that, but let's take a look at what we support within a custom card that you can provide. So first of all, custom cards, when you build a card, for example, here, we're showing the COVID updates, metrics, Yammer, and here we have one, time off, right? So we want to provide an application for time off. So we provide this view here so that from a user standpoint, I can come in and we have these, little dynamic titles and icons that we're pulling in. We also have dynamic descriptions, which we can pull in from the back end for an app because we're tagging an application. We can have multiple buttons. In the case of time off, we have a single one, but we can, for a custom piece, we can add multiple buttons. We have the support for that. And we have the ability to use a dynamic button that, based upon who the user is and the properties that we want to have around that, we can provide that there as well. Then once we select that particular button, we can then have multiple views that we're going to provide a user based off of who they are, or based off of selection. So here you can see they have the ability, it's showing by default vacation, but it's a selectable. So they can select that and get different views right in context. They don't have to leave, go anywhere else. And it's by using the adaptive card framework Nothing new. Again, we're leveraging the existing skill sets. But I can go ahead, do a select, and then I can stipulate, is it all day? Is there, if not, if I turn that off, then I would, again, get another view with the ability to select how much time, and then starts and ends. Submit, and then I can see all of it at a view, right within here, a view to the whole app itself, or the highlight, and then click and go to the whole, the whole app instead of just this one view. If I want, we can select a link and have that available as well. We do have card templates, so I'm going to give you a link to those. I want you to make sure, take the time, take a look at those, go through them. They do a great job of kind of walking through some of the things that we have. So for example, they have your, default one and some examples like a cafe menu, another one around shifts for setting that up, employee rewards. Now, this isn't tied to actual data, but you could go in, take the examples, some of those templates, and then tie that to it if desired. Within your adaptive cards, we also have, thanks, go back here. The ability to provide, like I said, different views. You might want to provide things like, we're showing this one here where you submit your time off, submit a claim, lines of business apps that you might want to provide. You can do all kinds of them within adaptive cards. There's a whole range of samples here for you if you follow that, and I'll show you the pages at the end. But the idea is really simplifying user access to not only information, but bringing it to them in context within that dashboard component and not having to leave, especially in that mobile view. So from the dashboard standpoint, we started to look at this. We give you a default view that you can come in and you can start to take a look at it. You can add cards like we were looking at, and we'll go back to that in a moment. You have the ability to add, and they're showing some different ones that a user may have, or the SharePoint person may have access to publish here because they've had somebody on the back end add those to the catalog. So we see a Starbucks one, a Kronos one, a Health Check, Poly, Jira, Workday, ServiceNow. A whole range of them are available today, but you simply assemble them on the page like I did earlier. It's that easy. So, one of the things is you can also set up within there for any one of them various actions. So here you can see it has, for this particular one, when they add it, different options around it. And so, I want to show you real quick. I'm going to come out here, come back into edit. I'm not going to have that. Just get rid of that particular one. So, typically when you add ones, you're going to get a view similar to this when you add custom ones, where you can set a couple of different attributes. Number one, the size of the card. This only has medium and large available. So I can do one similar to here, or like this large one I did here. You can give it you can take the existing title, give it a, custom title. You can have a custom image that you apply. So you can click change, here's that. You can also use an icon, and again, for any of those, here's the icons. So you can go ahead, change. I want to cancel out of that. If it's an image, it'll allow you to go ahead and either look to your site, browse to, go from a link, you can upload, make those available. Then coming on down, then you start to have the different actions. So with this one, this is a great way if you have existing adaptive cards and you want to pull them in. We have card action. We can do a couple of things. One, show a quick view, right? So if I have a quick view set up, there's nothing been set up here yet, I could then select that and add it. So typically that's when you add an adaptive card, that'll be available as an option for you to do. You can also in here go to a link. And so provide the link to this particular adaptive card. So it's going to render it right here. Then you have a primary button, the title of it. What's the action of that particular button, right? Go to a quick view, go to a link, go to a Teams app, like these ones that we talked about earlier. So you have all that available for you. Let me get out of that. You could, if you turned on a secondary button, right now we don't have any of it. It says to enable this button, the card size needs to be large. So if I went to large, there we go. Now that's going to be available. So now I have a 2-button view. Again, what do we want it to do? Quick view, go to a link, go to a Teams app. So I could very, very quickly set up a view. And here you can see we have code for JSON. It's showing me the template JSON right here. If I have my own code, I do have that I want to paste in here. We can place that. We have both the template and we have the data. So if you wanted to grab an existing template and shove it in here, you could do so, or you can modify it. I have a designer. I'm going to share the link with you in a moment for doing that. But here you can see we can go in very quickly and easily and paste code in that we have and where we're pulling data from. And then finally, audience profile targeting. So we have all that just within the web view of the designer itself, the card designer. We can do that right from here with very little or no code if we're tying to existing components and wanted to publish that out. So here you can see, again, they're just showing the manifest, some of the options we just saw. Additional options may be available based upon the application that you create and make available. And then as you pull it up here, you can have additional parameters. So you can see here again, things like button labels, the size of that. In this case, you know, they're allowing them to change the sizing on the buttons, custom properties from the developer, things that you may want to change. And that all comes about based upon the card that you either build or that you acquire and put in. And then based on that, again, you'll get those various options. So here, again, with the health check, that idea they wanted to have a quick view. And as part of the quick view, they have to accept the privacy notice here. Then from there, the actual rendering of that particular app, or it could be a Teams app or just the web view itself. But trying to make it very simple and streamlined so that from one to the next, it walks them through all in context. And if they stay in the app, it'll allow them to close it and then be right back in that dashboard view. One of the last things I want to make sure we highlight, and then I'm going to just open up for questions, and I'm going to show you a bunch of the resources we've gathered, which is going to be the biggest benefit from today, you know, honestly for you. With all of it, with targeting, not only can we target the individual tiles. So here we're seeing an information worker and a frontline worker, right? But we're able to have the different card sizes. We're able to target the different cards to people based upon who they are. And that could be location, role, etc. But it's nothing more than Azure AD groups or M365 groups, right? We're able to target those. But furthermore, we're able to also do some changing around the skinning here, whether we're going to display all the views, the tab views here, and then not have them or some of them for a different role within our org that we're targeting. So something to think about. And again, we have documentation around how to do all this as far as the config. But we want to be able to supply you with all that and get you started. So before we get into the resources, just a couple of quick things. When we talk about where to start, if you have personal apps or bots, talks about getting the app ID and the reference card. And if you have those today, you can go ahead and plug those right in with little to no work just by grabbing those individual elements. If you have existing SharePoint framework solutions and web parts, then you can do a couple of things. One, you can just go directly to the modern, using a modern page, have that link experience, and it'll give you the full experience there. Or if you want to go to a specific framework component, again, the app ID, and then the code to point to that dedicated page you can place as well. And starting from scratch, I have the generator and the link to that. We actually have that, so you can go ahead and start to work with that and deploy that out there and deploy your solutions to the app catalog. So we have a number of ways for you to get started today. And I have my last slide, then we're going to go through the resources that I mentioned. And this join the preview link will take you to my first of my resources, which is, or actually it's the last, the framework one that's going to allow you to go through. It has walking you through the framework itself, how to install the preview of the framework to start to work with it. And then we have some samples that you can go through. For example, here's a world clock one. We have video around that, source code and installation instructions. It's all out on GitHub. Same thing for that COVID checker. A lot of orgs ask us about that. This one is a great way for you to get your hands, get your feet wet, get your hands dirty with one that's going to give you that quick preview and that more integrated experience. But we already have the code, so you can get started with it. And then you can get a sense as to how you're going to configure and develop those for your own custom ones that you might want to provide. And again, we have some additional ones that we make available in videos to kind of walk you through that. But I highly recommend looking to join. It's what we call the developer, Viva Connections developer website. So, visit here and you can start to look at, they have monthly meetings for this SharePoint framework with Viva Connections. So I'll have that in the post, but you're able to tune into those once a month, and they go through an example and they show you how to develop it and what to do. So not only do you get these little ones that you can play with, but they have a monthly Q&A with the team developing the framework from a SharePoint standpoint to make that available for your folks. Additionally, we have, and this is all in that PDF, we have how to set up and create and set up your dashboard for your Viva Connections. There's a whole step through and walkthrough of it, and how to do things like add the web link card, assigning task card, add a Teams app card, the shifts card, because a lot of folks, they've kind of stumbled through those. This is going to give you walkthrough directions, what to do, how to do it. An overview of the extensibility and the things that we're able to do. I've got the linkage to that in there. Building your first adaptive card extension. So we have that, and then it goes through everything from the functionality to the quick view functionality, how to set that up, build that. We have the sample code that you can copy, the extensions around that you can add, and then, of course, adding it to your dashboard. Designing some of the considerations you'll want to consider when you're doing custom cards. We have a whole section on that online. And again, that's provided in the documentation for today. But we also have a couple of things. So number one, we have for adaptive cards, we do have an online framework. Maybe you don't have Visual Studio or the regular development tools or access to them. Here we have some things, how to publish, for example, your adaptive card schema. We have samples and templates available. This was updated last year, or no, May. So it's been a while, but those are all available for adaptive cards. And you can go ahead and look at, here's an activity schema sample, and they have a number of them you can go through over here on the left that you want to grab. Over here, we have some information about the mobile view. And then finally, if you have language requirements around Viva Connections for multilingual, we have it available today for 27 languages that you can do variations on. So we have information all around that and how to set up that experience to deliver for a multilingual experience if you're a multinational org. We're at 27 today, but that is increasing as we move forward. So I'm going to shut up now. Questions? I mean, I covered a lot. I know it was like a race through. I do want to call this out, coming up in a couple of weeks. One of my colleagues is going to be doing a step-by-step when you need to custom add something to the catalog, publish it from the catalog, going into just in depth around that. He's going to be delivering a session on that. So we'll have that available, kind of an in-depth walkthrough. But what questions? I'm sure there's a lot. I covered a lot and I had to race through it for time. But what questions do you have around the dashboard, its intent, how you get things to it, what you need to do? Just click a raised hand. I'll take you off mute and allow you can ask your question out loud. Any raised hands? Everybody's very quiet.
People are always shy.
There we go. I got.
All right.
Let's take. Oops. Allow mic. There you go. You can unmute yourself now. Joseph, you're off. You're able to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All
yep.
Right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties on my side. So, Mike, I think it was a lot of good content, and how that, technically to do a lot of the work here. What I struggle with is more of just kind of like more of a high level, foundational question, like, why do I need this, right? What are the benefits? How to sell it to my users? Like, I still struggle with some of the questions, although there are a lot of cool features. Can you maybe help kind of bring that up to like a 30,000-foot view and kind of help me with some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking, number one, Viva, I'll hit connections, then I'll hit dashboard. So why Viva Connections? Today, we know, like, as we look out at the workplace, right, we're typically in a hybrid work world now, right? A lot of us are from home. If we're in a clinician, though, or in a field where there's a lot of frontline workers, they're on site, but we're in this disparate environment. So being able to get people in a timely fashion and simplifying access to things, both from a communication standpoint and an application standpoint, becomes more paramount. And the traditional way of doing that through a corporate intranet was, well, you had a web page, people had to go to it. The idea with Viva Connections is, number one, we're going to bring that employee engagement and information to the employee by virtue of Teams fires up, start your day, and there it is, front and center. You have that intranet right in your face, right? So that information being brought to the employee versus them going to it. From a Viva Connections dashboard standpoint, it's all about targeting the key applications that various employees need on a regular, repetitive basis to get their job done. So, if it could be ServiceNow, for example, it could be Workday, it could be, Chronos, logging in, or Microsoft Shifts. It could be any range of different applications, and it may be and it typically is different for different groups. So it's all about making it easier for that employee, instead of having to go various places, to have it delivered to them, not only on the desktop, but on the mobile view as well. So, again, like if I'm a clinician, for example, I don't have to go and open a different app to get to my Kronos login. I don't have to go to a different app to get, maybe you do an integration with Epic or something like that. Whatever the case is, bringing it to the employee where they are and where they're working and simplifying that. It's all about simplifying the user experience and having to go less places to get your job done. And from a value standpoint, you own it. If you own Teams and SharePoint, you already own this, right? So it's the idea that we want to make it easy and bring it to the employee versus them going to it. Does that make sense?
Thank you for that. And let me ask a follow-up question for that, because it's kind of, you got me going, my mind thinking down this route. Is, it seems like this is best suited if you can identify your stakeholders by personas, right? So if you had, a field sales technician, for example, or a certain role that you only need to have a core set of apps that you would want to control and making sure you're simplifying their lives. It seems like it's really targeted for those areas where you can define those users versus it would be like maybe an R&D person or an IT person that may need a whole majority of apps depending on their function.
So it's a yes and no. So first off, there's typically within an org a couple of apps that are germane across the board. Agreed. Right? And so, and I always try to tell people, take the crawl, walk, run approach to the dashboard. I will tell you, most organizations I know, they may deploy connections, but they're working on the business back end aspects of the dashboard, including my org, right? Microsoft, we have connections. We've had it for a while. They have not yet rolled out the dashboard. They're doing the profiling with the feed and news so that we're differentiating information we're getting based off of location and role, those kind of things. But they haven't given us the dashboard because that's a business decision process, right? What do people really need? But I will say this, and I fault my own org for this, right? I'll speak frankly. So there are typically a couple, 1, 2, 3 applications that are germane across the board. There's no reason why you couldn't deliver those and then iteratively start to deliver the other components, right? So, you don't have to bake the whole ocean for the dashboard. You might say, look, we want to get our feet wet and get employees used to the experience before we start targeting. And so you could pick something like, I'll pick Workday, or it could be SAP or something like that. But something that everybody is going to use, drop that in and start to get employees used to that experience. And then as you come up with the targeting, start to have those key ones based off like some roles you just mentioned.
No, got it. Appreciate it. Thank you for the insight there.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, we're at the top of the hour. Like I said, I know I like raced through this because there is a ton. So what I'm going to do is I have all those slides with all the links in PDF format. They're going to be uploaded to the aka.ms/, the HLS blog, Healthcare and Life Sciences. I'll have that there. The recording will be there. All the links will be there. So that'll be there for your, consumption. You can get to all the various resources. As a follow-up, though, call to action, I do want to let you know, if you're a Microsoft Enterprise customer, we do have programs through Microsoft Fast Track, the Microsoft Technology Centers, and partner-led engagements that are all focused around connections and the dashboard and rolling that out so that you can get some assistance. We don't think that you should have to go and do this on your own. So please talk to your Microsoft team to get engaged, and we can help you to move forward with that. We want to help you. So please contact your team, let them know. With that, thank you for joining. We're at 2 minutes over. So I am going to stop recording, and I want to thank everybody for attending today. Have a great one.
Thanks, Mike.